These are 7 unbelievable bets that the bookies refused to pay out. It's a complete opposite of what their marketing wants you to believe, because the truth is, they'd rather you didn't know that these happened. So I'm going to expose it. In no particular order, starting with one of the biggest betting brands on the planet, because despite taking on an accumulator bet of £24,960 across 12 horses, they refused to pay out the £1 million win only after it landed for the lucky punter behind it. Now, for additional context, Bet365 registered a profit of £682 million in the year's accounts that followed this bet. Our punter's bet slip consisted of 968 different each-way Lucky 15 bets. For those unaware, a Lucky 15 is a type of bet that consists of 4 selections on 15 different combinations, 4 betting singles, 6 doubles, 4 trebles, and a 4-fold accumulator. Now, all 4 of the horses won in this case. Can you imagine how that must have felt? And more to the point, can you imagine how it felt when they refused to pay after it had landed? This is exactly why using soft bookmakers is dangerous. Sharp betting brands like Betting Asia don't do this because their offering is built around a totally different business model. Simply put, it means better prices, decent offers, and no refused payouts. Now, the Bet365 punter eventually took their dispute to the court, as the company were claiming that the bet had been funded by a third party and violated the small print that they'd agreed to on creating an account. Now, this has become a dirty practice that lots of bookies have used to avoid payouts since. Unfortunately, these terms and conditions haven't been tested in a court, because despite a 3-year legal dispute, the punter mysteriously stopped pursuing it. It's pure speculation, but I suspect that there was some kind of out-of-court settlement here, because if the punter won, it might have created an avalanche of claims from other people, unlike the blatant stitch-up that's next on our list. Premier League fans have probably noticed some big price specials advertised in the newspaper. The 72-year-old grandfather took a £25 punt on one of them at a price of 40-1 during the 21-22 season. It was a simple bet that Man City, Liverpool and Chelsea would finish in the top 3, and that Norwich, Burnley and Watford would get relegated. Upon taking his money, the Corals betting shop staff called head office to confirm and made a note of the special on his bet slip, as you can see on the screen here now. Now, these were modest stakes. The payout on Phil's bet was just £1,000, although it's worth remembering that thousands of others were advertised the same offer. But months later, after the bet had won, he went to collect, and they offered him just 50 quid. They claimed that the odds in the advertisement were a mistake and should have been just 2-1. After contacting the papers and revisiting the shop 3 times, it's reported that Coral wouldn't budge. It's criminal that the government let these companies just get away with this. Although number 3 on our list was a landmark case that ended very, very differently. It all started when the man from Lincolnshire hit the jackpot on one of Betfred's popular casino games. After winning exactly £1,722,923.54, he was congratulated by the Betfred customer services team. Overwhelmed with emotion, he told the local newspaper, "The money will be life-changing, I'll invest it, and I won't have to worry about bills anymore." And for 5 whole days, he believed it. However, shortly after, someone from Betfred called to say that there had been a software glitch and that they weren't paying out. In their defense, Betfred referenced terms and conditions that allowed them to avoid winnings in such an instance. Now, similar to Bet365's case mentioned earlier on, the bookies didn't want these terms tested in court, but Andy wasn't having it. The dispute escalated into a 3-year legal battle between Betfred and Green. Finally, in 2021, the High Court ruled in favour of Mr. Green, stating that the Betfred had no grounds for withholding the payout. The judge deemed Betfred's terms and conditions to be inadequate, and Betfred was ordered to pay out the £1.7 million jackpot plus interest. But it was a drop in the ocean compared to the financial damage caused by the 6th case on our list, but we'll get to that in just a moment. First, if you've ever bet on football, beware, because number 4 is a repeat problem when it comes to refused payouts. Sky Bet aren't alone when it comes to this either, although they do appear to be the brand name that comes up the most. High-profile football matches like those at the World Cup highlight this controversial issue the most, because the amount of complaints that are posted over on social media. Last Christmas is a good example when they posted a promotion for Lionel Messi to have 2+ shots on target against Mexico. Punters who had bet on how many shots on target there would be were then refused payment. Hard to believe if you watch the match. We created a video about it at the time, so take a look and see the shots for yourself after watching this one. In these cases, Sky Bet point the finger at companies that they partnered with for statistics, such as Opta, even when there's been video proof to prove that it was a mistake provided afterwards. But as usual, their terms and conditions have got it covered. It's grossly unfair, but avoiding bets around subjective decisions like shots on target is worth considering. Or, better still, use a sharp betting brand that doesn't limit winning accounts, doesn't restrict winning bet stakes, and doesn't refuse to pay out after it's already won. My preferred option is shared below on a link if you're in a location that they accept customers from. Getting soft bookies to honour their previous promises has become a real problem for punters in recent times, as the next high-profile case on our list proves. Because Ladbrokes refused to pay out a staggering £7 million to Cliff Bryant after he placed a series of bets on there being a white Christmas in the UK. Specifically, Bryant made 2 accumulator bets of £5 each, predicting snowfall in 24 different towns and cities across the north of England on Christmas Day. These massive accumulators landed in full, leaving Cliff with what he thought was a green Christmas. However, it was short-lived. Upon collection, Ladbrokes just refused, saying that it was a mistake and that they never should have accepted the bet in the first place. Instead, they offered to break down his betting stake and settle it as 24 different individual bets, leaving him with just 31 quid. But this wasn't anywhere near as frustrating as the last 2 on our list, because number 6 racked up hundreds of millions in liability before the company refused to pay. The scandal unfolded during a horse race at Leopardstown in December 2011. Punters had been placing bets against one another on Betfair's exchange during a horse race as usual. But controversy arose when an unusually large amount of money was offered to lay on Vola Vedette at odds of 28-1, even though the horse was a heavy favourite. Now, it's important to say that this kind of thing happens semi-regular on betting exchanges as punters scramble about and make mistakes. But in this case, the lay bet carried a total liability of around £600 million. Some speculated that market-making automation had gone wrong or that Betfair themselves were involved. Needless to say, in-running punters jumped on it, with the horse eventually winning the race. But then came the refusal. Betfair claimed that there'd been a technical glitch in the system that had allowed a customer to exceed their account balance. They said that the money that had been bet wasn't even there. Their solution was to void all bets and cite terms and conditions. The fallout was brutal, as some players had hedged their bets elsewhere, and now one side of the bet had been cancelled. Now, considering Betfair doesn't void bets in other situations where there's been technical difficulties, it was extremely frustrating for many people. However, the decision to void the bets was upheld and no payouts were made, which leads us on to our final incident with William Hill. Now, there's no shortage of complaints and cases about William Hill refusing or withholding funds. Recently, there was a truly shocking case where they called the police on a customer that had won over £10,000. It's an intense story with some important details, so it's well worth checking it out here in the end screen.